Mr. Speaker, sir, given the members' considerable interest in government spending on international students, I will give a more comprehensive reply today, and I will make 3 points. The first point is that the core objective of our education system is to serve the needs of Singaporeans, and no Singaporeans is ever displaced from an Institute of Higher Learning or IHL because of an international student. This is because we plan the number of IHL places with Singaporean students in mind. And then each IHL sets standards for admission. And this ensures that students can cope with the rigor of the curriculum. The IHL continues to be held in high regard both locally and internationally, and students are valued by employers upon graduation and they can secure jobs. So when all Singaporean students who meet the standards have been admitted, the IHL then raise the bar by a few notches and then admit a small minority of international students over and above the local students. And because of this method, no Singaporean student is ever displaced from an IHL because of an international student. The second point I want to make is that the education budget, about $13 billion every year, is overwhelmingly spent on local students to make education affordable. Beyond the heavy government subsidies available to all Singaporean students, there is also financial aid in the form of assistance and bursaries to ensure that fees remain affordable for lower to middle income families. So to answer the member's question, such financial aid is for Singaporean citizens only. The member also asked for the trend of annual government spending on international students in terms of scholarships and tuition grant, and this has fallen by about 50% over the last 10 years. MOE recently stated in a reply to a written question by the member that the total government spending on scholarships for international students in our schools and universities come out to about 1% of our annual education budget, or $130 million a year. Unfortunately, immediately after we issued the written reply, I see online reports with a fabricated and inflated number of over $300 million. The real cost actually, I think, is well below $130 million a year, because $130 million is the worth of the scholarships to the students, not the cost to the education system as a whole. Let me use an analogy. Let's say a restaurant gives a $100 voucher to a customer. So the voucher is worth $100 to the customer, but the incremental cost to the restaurant to fulfill the voucher can be much less. Why? Because the cost of rental, utilities, service staff, management, etc. are more or less fixed already. So whether the customer turns up with a voucher or not. And it's the same logic applying to our universities. So likewise, you imagine if tomorrow we send back all our international students on scholarships, how much of our education budget do we save? I think it will be much less than $130 million, because that is the worth of the scholarship to international students, not the expenditure incurred by the system. Overhead costs such as the buildings, the laboratories, the equipment, the management, manpower, faculty will still need to be incurred anyway. Instead, if we send back all our international students, what we will lose are the opportunities for Singapore students to build bonds and bridges with students from other countries and expand their network of friends. This is an increasingly important aspect of education because we are all working in a globalized, multicultural world. We will also lose a catchment of people who can contribute to Singapore potentially. Today, international students in IHLs who are awarded scholarships are required to work in Singapore for at least 3 years after they graduate. Many eventually sink roots, take up permanent residency or citizenship, and raise their families here. Even if they decide to leave Singapore after fulfilling their obligations, they can be part of our valuable global network of fans and friends who can speak up for Singapore from time to time and forge collaborations with Singapore. Third point I want to make is that because of the reasons above, every reputable IHL all around the world admits international students and provides them with some form of financial support. The best universities around the world, Oxford, Yale, Eco Polytechnic, Technical University of Munich, etc., all have a diverse and international student body, far more than our IHLs, in fact. In fact, there are top US universities like Yale, MIT, Princeton, who have meets-blind admission system. So they don't admit you based on whether you can pay. So long as you meet their standards, you are admitted. If you can't pay, there will be some form of donations, financial assistance to help you pay. And Singaporean students must have entered those schools on that basis before as well. So because of that, Singaporeans studying overseas benefit from subsidized fees or scholarships from overseas universities as well. In fact, many European universities offer free or heavily subsidized education to all foreign students. And there are around 400 Singaporean students currently studying in French and German universities, and they benefit from highly subsidized tuition fees there. So we give some and we also take some. And our IHLs cannot depart from this international practice norm and has to be part of this global education network.